Hello and welcome back to Everyday Writers, your one-stop shop for demystifying the writing process. I'm one of your hosts, Crystal McQueen.
And I'm your other host, Jordan S. Keller. Today, we're going over the 6 conflict types and a few basic story acts for you to use in your novel. But before we dive in, please click that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up. Your support means the world to us.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. There are 6 types of conflicts your novel needs to have at least one of them, because without conflict, there's no story. Of course, you always have your main character, but it's your main character versus who? Versus a person, versus society, versus some supernatural force, versus self. It could be versus nature. It could be versus technology. So one of I'm just going to go into like
Yeah.
person versus nature, because like that's one of my favorite books to read. It's very intense.
Ooh.
And so the whenever you have the Hatchet or Call of the Wild, where you're lost in the woods and you've got to survive, right? That's human versus nature. I would even qualify, like, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Quiet Place, but that is also human versus alien nature, but nature all
Yeah,
the
nature.
same.
You can
Yeah,
also put it as supernatural because of the monsters. So, two
true.
dual types.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What about you? What's your favorite?
I'm a big sucker for person versus self and person versus supernatural. I my I just I like there to be a clear cut monster involved. Like, yep, that's the villain. There's nothing to second guess. Like that is our antagonist. And of course, you can have like sneaky tricksters on the side. But I like a clear cut adversary.
Yeah. Well, I know that whenever and I would almost put this both into like supernatural versus person versus society, but whenever your or your antagonist is intangible, that is always just like one of those books that I'm just like biting my nails going like,
Yeah.
how do you fight what you can't see? So if you think about, books where the antagonist is a ghost, or it's something like Poltergeist like scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And I don't read a lot of horror books. Like that's something that I definitely steer away from. But if you've ever read Mexican Gothic,
Oh
that is
yeah.
very supernatural. It's very creepy, and the whole time I'm like, oh my God, the house is alive, the house is alive, get out of the
Do it
house, get out of the
again.
house. So I think I steer away from those books, not because of I don't like the stories, but because I'm a chicken.
I can't do horror, period. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Last month, a couple of our friends got together and we did a PowerPoint presentation party. And so you just bring a topic to talk about.
Oh yeah.
And my presentation was why there's an anime manga series called Kaiju Number 8 and why it was like the next best thing. And one of the reasons for why it was is because it hit 4 of the 6 conflict types. And so it had all this tension coming from all these different directions. And just when you thought one conflict was resolving, the other villain from the other conflict was coming in, and
Yeah.
excellently well done.
Well, and those are like the kind of books that keep you gripped, because when you think you
Yeah.
know who the antagonist is and then suddenly it's this other thing. I'm a big fan of human versus technology, or
Mhm.
really human versus lack of technology. So what happens when your
Ooh.
technology fails? But I'm always going to have also like some other kind of big bag, like who took the technology away from
Mhm.
you, or who's trying to take your ability to survive. But in the end, it's all about like, either technology has failed me or technology has done something it's not supposed to do. And how does my character overcome that? So yeah, that's
Does
my preferred writing style. Sorry.
does that tie into you writing speculative fiction? Because always, like now that you mentioned it, there's always a technological element in the stories that you've brought that I've seen.
Yes. So spec fiction for me is so much like, I wonder, I don't think I would have survived past my 20s if I had grown up 100 years ago. Like, what happens if I didn't have, medicine? What
Mhm.
happens if I didn't have like healthcare? Yeah, I took my dog for a walk the other day and it was 37 degrees. It's like, I can do this. I'll bundle up. I've got a heated jacket and all this stuff. I was freezing. We had to turn around and go back. It was too cold. The
Oh.
wind was just biting. And I was
Mhm.
like, people used to do this, without gloves and go out
Yeah.
and cut trees and like make fires and stuff. I don't think I had survived. So much of what I write is me going, I don't know that I would have survived without this. So let's actually see if I put a character in it, how they would do it.
Ooh.
What about you? Like talk about your writing style, and
Yeah.
because you said. you seem to like multiple pieces of it.
Yep. So like from first glance, it's usually person versus person or person versus supernatural in the sense that there's like a clear cut adversary villain. But if you look deeper, like really into the subconscious of it, there's a lot of person versus self between like what the character thinks they are, what they think they want, versus who they actually are, what they actually want, and this warring between like them and their ego essentially. So like going to Ashes Over Avalon, Abigail, the main hero,
That's immediately
she
who I thought of.
good. So like she wants to be this hero. She'll do anything to be this hero. And then when being that hero isn't doing the hero thing she wants to do, she has to come face to face with herself. Like, what does it mean to be a hero? Is it wrong if it's not what society person versus society? Is
Yeah.
it not what society wants it to be? Um, yeah, so just those layers.
I can you think of sorry to put you on the spot, but can you think of a story where um the person isn't fighting themselves in some way? I just read Parable of the Sower. It's a speculative fiction book written by Olivia shoot. I should know her name. Something with a B. Look it up. I mean, if you put in Parable of the Sower, she's very, very
Yeah.
popular. Uh, but in that book, one of the things that Octavia Butler is her name. Um, one of the things that the main character is doing is like she's got this idea of society, and like her whole theory is like God is change, right? She doesn't believe in the Bible, but she believes in her own form of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just throughout that whole book, I kept wanting her personality to change, but it never did. It just got more ingrained, and like it was probably
Oh,
one of the first books where it was like the character thought that they were right from the beginning. They turned out to be right, and they stayed right the whole book, you
so there was
know?
no change to him.
I mean, there was definitely change in their circumstances, change in
Mm-hmm.
her growth as far as like what she eventually learned she wanted to be. But at
Okay.
no point did she doubt that she was right, you
Yeah.
know? I
Ooh,
feel like
to have
humans
that
are like,
confidence.
was I like, what happens if this? Is this my fault? That kind of stuff.
Hmm.
No, none of that. She was like, I think you'd be a good part of our group. And she was never
It's like that little nagging voice just didn't exist for her.
Yeah, well, and she was always right. So like you were right. So why would you doubt yourself, you know?
Oh, I think that's the confidence we need to take into work tomorrow.
Yeah. So okay, so let's migrate a little bit more into story arcs. So
Yeah.
these are the frameworks that shape our novel and our character's journey, right? So as we're talking about the different frameworks, we're going to use the Hunger Games as our example. So we'll go from uh really broad, so you can get like a high level. If you think about like actually plotting this out, thinking about like how high level is it, how does my story start, how does my story end, and what's the middle point that I'm going to get there. That's kind of your three-act structure. So
Mhm.
Jordan, do you want to go through that?
Yeah. So like you just said, Crystal, three act structure. It's got three parts to it. It's the simplest of the acts we're going to talk about today. It's simplest, it can be good or a bad thing. Good to just go ahead and get all that data out of your head and get ready to go. Bad because it is very broad. There aren't a lot of specificities or details to it. So your first act is the setup. I have to read my notes. This introduces the world, your characters, and the exciting incident. So in the Hunger Games example, this is showing Katniss's daily life, her hunting, her at the Hob. It gets to the reaping, her volunteering to take the place of her sister. It's showcasing the tributes before the games, that training arc. So all of that is Act One.
Yep.
Act Two is the confrontation, and the confrontation is your character facing the obstacles and complications. This is the game. This is the survival of that game, getting to the end. And then the final act, the resolution, this is the climax and the aftermath. And so for the Hunger Games example, this is when the announcer says, you can save two people from the same district. Katniss goes to find Peeta. They defy the district, or sorry, they defy the capital rather. And then that aftermath is them learning they never actually get to leave the games, even when they get back home.
So,
So it's
I
a,
didn't actually think about this, but now that I'm thinking about it, because like I'm going through my next novel and I've got like a couple of chapters down and I've got an
mm,
outline, I actually think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do the three-act structure, and then I'm going to do the five-act structure, and then the seven-act structure. I think that'll
ooh,
actually, I've got it outlined. I know what I want to happen,
yeah.
but when you're looking at it from that perspective, when you're looking at it from the example of introducing your world, showing your character and what's your inciting incident, to like what's the actual confrontation, like what's the race against time, what are you trying to do? And then what's your actual resolution? I'm a firm believer that I need to know the end. That is not for everybody, but for
You've
me,
convinced me to know mine too.
if I don't know the end, I can go into very dark corners and then realize I've got no story. But I like this. I like this ability of going like, very high level and then getting more and more specific.
Yeah. And then I feel like it can help you figure out like where you're missing, what you're lacking. Like, but my exposition's kind of weak. Let me build that up. And yeah,
Yeah, interesting. So
yeah.
I know you're wrapping up Ghost Kid. Have you done any of this for Ghost Kid at all?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Um, it's with a developmental editor right now, and I'm just twiddling my thumbs till I get it back while jotting all these things on the side I want to go ahead and
I
fix and
saw
change
your
about it and
Instagram post. You had a whole wall full of post-it notes.
for a different novel. But like I think I'm gonna change the opening of it and looking at it from like we're about to get into the 5 act structure. Like I think I jump way ahead into the exposition phase, and I might need to pull back just a little.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I think once I get these edits back and can view everything, I might do what you're doing and plop it all down and then expand it, plop it all down, and
Yeah, you don't have to do this in any order. Like I don't
yeah.
believe you have to do it in any order. I found out about the reversed outline after I had written my second novel. And my one of my professors was like, "Well, after you write the first draft, you do a reverse outline. You basically outline what you wrote and then fix your outline."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, you mean you
That's
don't just
legal?
you don't just change your outline as you go, you know?" So anyway, um, as we're going through this, I'm like thinking of my book and thinking about how I want to get from piece to piece to piece, and this is going to be
Yeah.
great. I'm going to do this.
Ooh.
Okay, so switching to the 5 act structure, right? This
Yeah.
is also Freytag's pyramid. This is more specific. So you've got Act One, which is your exposition. This introduces the character and the setting. So this is that hunt at the beginning, where Katniss is sitting with Gale and they're talking about wishing that they could run away, but they don't. She sells her wares at the Hob, and then she ends up going to, well, she has to go to the Reaping.
Hmm.
And then you get into Act Two, which is your rising action. This is the conflict that is introduced and it intensifies. So you don't just introduce conflict; you have to make it where it's become unbearable for your character to navigate away from their day to day.
Yeah.
And so in the Hunger Games, this is the Reaping and her volunteering for her sister Prim. And then you go through all of your fun and games, as the Save a Cat says, and then you get to the climax. The climax. This is the turning point or the decision point in the book. So the whole time, Katniss is going through the game. She's performing. All she's doing is trying to survive. But then they announce that 2 people are able to win if they are from the same district. So now Katniss's plans have completely changed. She goes and finds Peeta. And then you have Act Four, which is your falling action, which is falling out of the decision. So they decided that they were both going to survive. They were both going to get to go home. And then, of course, the Capitol takes it back on them and tells them that they can't. So they decide to eat poison berries. And the Capitol stops them at the last moment. So that's your falling action, meaning there's no turning back, right? Like there's no
Hmm.
going back up that hill.
Because you're
And
free
then
falling.
and then finally there's the resolution, where things become their new normal. And so this is Katniss and Peeta going back to District 12, the Victor's Village, only to discover that they never get out of the Hunger Games, that they have to go right back in and become mentors the next year. So
Oh, you make me want to reread this book. So
it's a
moving on to
very well done
oh,
story.
it really is. Like it was, gosh, I was in early high school, middle high school when it was coming out, and like everyone was reading it, and like you could hear the audible gasp when people got to certain sections of the book, and it
Yeah.
was just really the school never felt so like united when we are until we read this book.
We all hate the Capitol.
We all hate the Capitol. Moving on to the 7 act structure. This structure was made popular in the Save the Cat. So if this really resonates you, check out Save the Cat, check out the beat sheets. It really dives in and it expands even further, these 7 acts.
Yeah, that's
But
Jessica Brody, right? Jessica
yep,
Brody. Yep.
yeah. Act 1 is your hook. So this shows the starting place for your character. This would be Katniss in the hunt, going to the Hob, sorry, to sell the deer and all that jazz. And then Act 2 is your plot point, your exciting incident, which is after the reaping and all that happens. Peeta wishes that they could defy the Capitol, which seems super strange because that happens so late in the
It's an
novel.
exception to the rule.
Yeah.
It is.
So this is like chapter 3 or 4ish, if I'm remembering right.
Oh, no, no, no.
No,
In the Hunger Games, it's in the middle. It should be in your chapter 3 or 4. But this is an exception where it happens after they've been paraded in front of the Capitol and they're about to
oh,
go in.
that's right.
Yeah,
Oh my
this
gosh, I
is
thought
a
this
very big exception to the rule.
because this is during the interview. Like it's after the interview stages.
It's after the interview stages. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
my,
yeah,
I do need to reread this book. Um,
yeah.
the third act will be your first pinch point, which is a pressure point, and this is when the conflict intensifies and makes your character react to it. So I believe this is when Rue is killed and Katniss is forced to sort of like, oh my gosh, this is all real. This is what we're doing. And there is no going back. Like
I
death is here.
love that you picked that moment in the
Was that
book.
what you were thinking?
It wasn't, but I love
Oh,
it, and I'm going with that one now.
perfect. Act 4, which is your midpoint. This is the moment where your character takes charge and starts acting to the conflict versus reacting to it. So this is like when Katniss is getting smart and she's using like the tracker venom or the tracker jacker venom,
Hmm.
and like using all the things she knows to her advantage. I think this is when she gets that bow and everything. Act 5 is your second pitch point. It's another pressure point for your content, or sorry, for your conflict. And this is usually where your character fails. And it got me second guessing the whole plot progression. Does Katniss get hurt here, or did she get hurt in the first pitch point?
So this pinch point is where it's your dark moment of the soul. It's where she thinks that she's not going to win. So
That's yeah,
yeah. And so
because that's
that's
what Jessica calls it in the book.
yeah, the dark moment of this that's what it's called. Dark Night of the Soul? Dark Night of the
Yeah,
Soul.
Dark Night
Yeah.
of Soul.
This is when it all is lost, right? You don't
Mhm.
think that there's any way that you can do this. PETA has saved her. She knows PETA has saved her. And she's basically doomed him. And that's her dark moment. Like she doesn't know how she's gonna live with herself knowing she killed somebody from her own district.
Right, and she's almost thinking like, if Peeta survives, he's good. He'll take care of my family, and like,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I do remember this book. That gets us to our Act 6, which is the plot turn 2. This is your character discovers something to overcome the conflict. This is very clearly when the capital is like, two of you can survive.
Yeah.
And then the final act is a resolution, the final battle against the conflict, and how your character life looks after. So that would be the capital saying, "Oops, we lied. You do have to kill each other," and then Katniss bringing out those poison berries, and then just the ending of the book, them returning to home, realizing that they're never going to leave the games. They're still a pawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that we've gone through these, I want to do this so badly for my novel that I'm working on. I think that
You
this
sh-
would really help.
yeah. And then you
Yeah.
should bring it to podcast.
Oh, and spoil my
If you
whole
want to
book.
spoil your whole book, but like, or maybe just like the third, like the 3 act structure, just to kind of like see how your brain went through it, to know when Act 1 was finished, Act 2 was finished, because
Yeah.
that's the intimidating part to me is when do you know you're done with the the midpoint? When do you know you're done with the plot turn to
I don't
sort of
know.
outlining scares me.
I feel like it just comes naturally. Like at some
Mm.
point you're like, all right, I've put my character through enough. Like I need to do this. Because I remember the very first book that I wrote, I remember thinking, what is her dark moment of the soul? And she's traveled across on foot with her and this dog and a pack she can barely carry,
Mhm.
through the blisters and the lack of water and all of the things that she goes through, and all she wants to do is get back to her husband and kids, and then she finally gets there and realizes that her husband is talking to another woman that like they had set up camp and everything like that. And so she's got this moment where she was like, he's already moved on from me, and that's like her dark moment.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know about this.
and so anyway, if I ever get back to that novel, that was one that I had tabled.
Yeah.
If you are somebody who is like, I'm going to write this first novel and I'm going to publish it, and you do, super thumbs up. I read about that when I first started writing, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to put this much work into a novel that I'm not going to. Never say
Right.
never.
And like, gosh, my first novel was like lunch in a bag compared to your first novel, which felt like a gourmet meal. Like what you were showing us was so polished.
Oh,
And
don't say that about your writing. Your
oh,
writing is
you
beautiful.
you didn't see that first book.
It wasn't Jaeger and Ada. I'm still
No,
waiting for Jaeger and Ada to come
I
back.
know, I know. No, my first book was like a space pirate treasure hunt. And like
Oh,
I
that's
had no, yeah,
right.
I had no business writing that level of sci-fi that early.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it so much. So anyway, I have debated on whether or not to go back to that novel or write
Yeah.
the one that I'm writing. I really like it. I've gone back and forth with it, like talked to Bill about it, like what would be the
Yeah.
better novel. And he's convinced me that he gave me very good reasons for both, but his reasons for continuing with the third planet, which is what
Mhm.
my next novel is called, was just like so justifiable that I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll do this one and then I'll go back to that one.
Do you think that'll kind of motivate you? Like, I have to finish this now so I can go back to the book one.
No, I mean, oh gosh, querying has been really, really rough, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just something that I find a lot of difficulty finding motivation to write when you get so many people being like,
Yeah.
I don't think your book's a fit for me. And you'll get past it. Like I will get past it.
Mhm.
Somebody will like my book. I do know this. I know that it will get out there. But it is definitely I'm one of those people where like rejection feels like I feel it personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't know that I can be motivated to write faster. It's more I
Mm.
got to write in my time. And I need an agent slash publisher that understands I got to write in my time. Otherwise you're going to get garbage. So, well, before we go, let's talk about the hero's journey. And because you
Yeah.
write heroes stories, maybe you can kind of go through. This is just one of several different structures, but this is just an example. If you read The Save a Cat, it's got all the different kinds of
Hmm.
journeys that you can look at. But let's go through and explore one of them. So, Jordan, you want to talk about the hero's journey?
Yeah. So it's super common in fantasy books, but isn't limited to just that genre. The movie Euro Trip is actually considered a hero's journey, but Star
Yeah, it
Wars,
is.
Star Wars is a hero's journey. Lord of the Rings is a hero's journey.
Yeah.
So once you like start recognizing it, you'll see it in a lot of places. But it's broken into three acts with 12 key moments total. Act one is the ordinary world, which is your character's daily life is established to the reader. Then the call, which is the exciting incident that breaks them from their norm. And then the refusal of the call, your character is afraid to face the call. And then meeting of the mentor, this is when your character gains advice on how to tackle that call. And then
Okay,
closing out,
sorry.
oh,
Can we stop at meeting the
yeah.
mentor? I did not realize there was a mentor in every single one. But once I
Mhm.
read that, I was like, yeah, there is. Even in Euro
like,
Trip, there's
like,
like
how did I miss them?
Sorry, I totally
Oh, no,
like
yeah, no, you're fine.
interrupted your flow.
Closing out Act One is crossing the first threshold. This is when your character leaves the comfort of their life to face that call. Act two is test allies and enemies. This is your character facing challenges and learns the rules of their new world, and they usually fail somewhere in here. And then next is approaching the cave. This is when your character prepares for the main conflict, the ordeal, which is your character facing the main conflict and wins, usually learning something that caused them to fail from the previous section. And then the reward, which is your character gains whatever treasure comes with defeating that conflict. And then the third act is the road back home. This is your character heading home, but they're followed by some sort of conflict, whether this be like an actual entity from the villain or a psychological like ramification of the change of the norm now. And then the resurrection, which is the final battle with the conflict. This is usually costing the character something, whether it be a piece of mind, a body part, part of the treasure that they had just collected. And then the final part of the hero's journey is the return. And this is the character returning home. They have changed and the world has changed.
And so these mirror exactly what we talked about in the very high level three act structure. So if you
Mm-hmm.
think about the Hunger Games, right, it's the same thing. You're act one, ordinary world, the call, refusing to meet the call, meeting the mentor. In this case, it's Hamish, right?
Yep.
Act two is test allies and enemies. Like this could just be like a blueprint for
Yeah.
the whole movie. And then the road back. To me, when the character they're not Katniss isn't actually heading home. It's when she realizes she can pull back from being that killer,
Yeah.
and that it's not going to be her or Peta, that she can go and save Peta and actually make it home. And so I love how this takes that three act structure up above that was super high level and breaks it into
Mm-hmm.
tinier pieces. And that actually even might be a way to break up your novel instead of doing the five and seven, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or there's even the rare 27 outline 27 chapter outline method. And
Oh
it
my
it
gosh.
yeah, I actually prefer that one. It's very like this happens, this happens, this happens. And it helps me
Is that the
like talking about
beats?
is it the beach?
Is that what
No,
that
no,
is? No.
no.
Okay.
It's got similarities to it.
Okay.
But I use that when I reverse outline, that I can kind of like
Oh,
plug what I've already got, what I'm missing. Um,
interesting.
yeah, so check that out. We're a little short on time. That's
Oh,
that
yeah.
27 chapter outline.
Yep. So that's all the time that we have for this episode of Everyday Writers, as Jordan just said. So don't forget, there's a lot of different story acts, but don't be scared to play around with the one that fits your style.
Or try all the three ones. And
Try
then
them all.
your story needs a conflict, and combining several makes it for a very tense story.
And if you're a pantser, not like me, because I'm not, you can use these story acts for loose outlining. So know your beginning, know your end, and then just know one point in the middle that can connect the two.
Yeah. And then join us next time for an in-depth look on plot and how to write one your readers won't want to put down. And if you love what you hear on Everyday Writers, don't forget to click that subscribe button and follow Crystal and I over on Instagram.
And don't forget, every day is a good day to write. See you next time.
Um,